about our student growth. It's just kind of a roundtable discussion, and what I'll do is I'll turn over to Mr. Smith, and then I guess you can introduce, for the ones that don't know.
Yeah, well, let me start out by saying how we kind of got here. These two gentlemen, I think, have been here before, and they've been working with us since day one, as far as giving us some advice and counsel. But on the other end, it worked out, the timing was good, because when you guys asked me to talk to Mayor Mason and the county commission about the educational committee meeting, I don't think they'd had a committee for about 2 years, and so he said, give me some time to get all the committees appointed. So he just today, actually, earlier today, they got their committee put together. But he did ask me, he thought and actually named Mr. Almond by name back there, and said he thought it would be very beneficial to them to have a study done, or at least, when we're talking about that, I'm gonna let them tell you more of their scope of services. But we don't know. I don't want to make a mistake, and I don't think anybody else does. I don't know if we need a school, no schools, 2 schools. That's what, hopefully, in the scope of their study, if we ask them to do that. And I think that's what the county commission wants, and I think that's what the mayor wants. And so at this time, I'm going to introduce them. I'll make sure, because I'm terrible with names, even though I know them and pronounce their names right. But most of you know David Almond with Almond Engineering Services. And Aaron's been with us now for some time, Aaron Miller, and he's with a different group, but I think this different group that originally you represented correctly.
So, yeah.
This is a different group now you're with, but
Yes.
we like I told you earlier, for me personally, our relationship with you, because as long as you're okay with that, and the board is, I'm fine with that, but that's something we can talk about. But I want you to talk about, and I want the board to ask them questions, because I think we need to understand what they do and what y'all want from them. And what I think, and I'll try to interject what I do know the county commissioner, I feel like that the mayor's asking for. I think he just wants some data to show more or less or nothing. So at this time, if David, you'd like to talk, you're Aaron, either one, just.
And we've had a turnover in board members. That's one thing too. We have 4 new board members. I don't think that were involved when we first started.
Did you
this
meet them,
discussion.
Scotty? You met them?
I did meet this.
Yeah, I think they done one presentation.
Did he do one? Okay, I couldn't.
Didn't they sometime
remember.
back?
No, I don't think we've been.
I don't think so.
So,
I
you
haven't-
you not met them? Okay.
I've been
I'm
every
sorry,
meeting.
okay.
Yeah, I've been every meeting.
That's
I
the reason
met
we need to.
Yeah.
And
They
you
kind of get
introduce
everybody
yourself and
called
what.
up.
Okay.
And I know, guys, I know that's extremely vague, but I wanted the board to know what you did, and then if they want to custom the program that we're putting together, that way we'll be together on what we're doing.
All right, I am Dave Almond with Almond Engineering. I'm from this area. I went to school, Lawrenceville School. And I'm in Cookville right now. Aaron Miller is with McCarty Holsapple, McCarty out of Knoxville. And Aaron and I have done lots of schools together over the years. Working on some now, some pretty good sized projects. And we've done these kind of studies to help the boards understand, I guess, what they need and where they need it in order to go forward with funding and so forth. And with that, Aaron's a lot more into the intricacies of the study part, so I'll let him go ahead and speak to you about those things.
Aaron Miller, McCarty, Holsap McCarty. I'm assuming you all are needing a study because you're having growth. Is that right?
Well, we've got growth. The overall numbers are not, they're up, obviously, across the county,
Okay.
but we're seeing it right now, and that's where I don't want to taint your study, so to speak. But
Understand. And
but-
don't want that either.
Okay.
I don't want you to tell me
but
what
we
you
are
want to
having
build. I don't want
growth.
to tell
We're
me.
having what we're calling, I think Jamie named it correctly, a swale,
Yes.
and that's what we need advisement on.
Yeah. Well, I've done studies like this before. I actually did one years ago for Putnam County right next door, and been doing work for them for a long time. And just recently got through doing a study for Athens. Now they were the reverse. They actually had they were wanting to consolidate because their population had stagnant growth. So, but we were able to go in and basically do the study and help them identify what they need and what they need to build. They went from a 5-school system and decided to go from 5 schools down to 3. And actually it was down to 2. They wanted to do one facility that had 2 schools. But basically in a study like this, you've got to start with figuring out what do you have. and you do that two different ways you look at it. One, you got to look at it spatially. How much capacity do you have in your existing resources, your buildings right now? You got to know what resources you got. You got to look at it spatially and say, okay, what is it? And each building is going to have two capacities. It's going to have a core capacity, and it's going to have a classroom capacity. You could have a core that will hold 800 students, but you only got classrooms that'll hold 400. And so you've got to look at both pieces of that, because that will also tell you, okay, well, can I add on to this school? You don't want to overgrow your core, because then you've got lunches going from 9 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so you don't want to do that. So you've got to look at two capacities, the core capacity and the classroom capacity. So once you do that, then you got to figure out, okay, is the building spatially meeting your educational needs right now? What programs do you have? Is it supporting that, or do you have people in closets trying to have class? So you got to look a little bit at programmatic needs that you have across the school system. What's your typical elementary school? What's your typical middle school? What's your typical high school? What curriculum do you need? What spaces do you have? Do you have enough? Then when you do that, you assess what you have spatially. Then the assessment portion has a second part. And it's, what is the physical condition of this building? Was it built in 1920 and it's on its last limb? Are all the panels at capacity? Are all, is there any insulation in the outside walls? Are you spending maintenance dollars out the wazoo to kind of keep the thing heated and cool? So you got to look at what you have assessment-wise as far as spatially and physical condition. Once you know your resources, then you've got to start looking at the demographics of your community. Where are all the people? Once you start figuring out, okay, well, this facility is at 95% capacity, this one's at 75 or whatever, you don't have school zones, do you? No school zones. So then you got to say, okay, where are all these students coming from? And you got to start looking at that. You got to start looking at the demographics. Where's the growth happening in your community? Is it down south below the interstate? Is it up north? Where's industry coming? Is there industry coming? I know that you probably got industry coming from Wilson. Is it Wilson County next door? And Putnam County's kind of bleeding into here. So you might have some growth that way. So we can look at demographics and kind of see where's your growth, where are your numbers, where's everybody coming from, and start really honing in and determining if you do need additional capacity, where's the best place to build that, and looking at the numbers, what is the shortage of capacity? Is it in your elementary schools? Is it in your middle schools? Is it in your high schools? So that's the kind of study that you'd be looking at doing. And we can go, now there is a bare minimum that we could do to give you the data, but we can go as deep into the data as you want. We can walk the buildings with teams of engineers and look at every panel, look at every mechanical equipment, and figure out what is the existing conditions of these buildings. We can do that, or we can do a cursory review and look at it and see, really just focus, what are the dates of this building? Because a lot of your buildings, I don't know if your buildings are this way, but I know in my experience, when you go to a school, it's a mixture of 3 or 4 different buildings that were built at different time frames, and you really got to assess it from the 3 different pieces. Well, that 1990 building might be just fine, but the 1920 piece needs to go bye-bye, and you might can keep that, get rid of that, add on to it, and phase it in a way. So that's also another part of the strategic planning. After you get all your data, after you know where the numbers are, and after you know what conditions you got, then you can maybe start looking at, okay, here's some strategic plans of, well, if you do a 4 classroom addition there, or you do a brand new facility there, you're going to meet your needs. And then you can hopefully also project your growth and say, okay, in the first 5 years, you need capacity added there, there, and there. 10 years from now, you need capacity there, there, a brand new school there, there, and you can kind of look at it that way. So that's kind of the study that we're talking about. And so I guess my question to you all, is that what you're needing? Is that what they're wanting?
I'm Scotty and I talk too much, so
That's all right.
I apologize for that. Here's for my part, and then everybody else can speak on their own. Obviously, clearly I'm a new board member, so
Okay.
if I make a misstep, the attorney over will clean me up, go water bottle or something like that. Here's what I want.
Okay.
A very apolitical, which is what you're going to be, a opinion of what do we need to be looking at over the next period of 5 years or 8 years or whatever that is going to take care of the needs of our children. That's what I care about. You know, if you come back and say, based on this is what we need to do, it's going to take care of the needs of our children, that's what I want to hear. Regardless of which way the tree limb falls, you know, if it's good or if it's bad or whatever it is. But, you know, I appreciate you being here and appreciate what you're offering to do. But from my perspective, and I think we've got some buildings here that need examination. We've got an elementary school here that hasn't been touched in a long time.
Yeah.
Are we throwing too much money at that? Is it taking care of the needs of the kids that go there? Because ultimately, while our employees are really close second to that in my heart, you know, our children are the reason why we're here. So for my part, that's what I want. I want you to go as deep as we need to go to see what we need to do over the next 5 to 8 years or whatever. And tell us where we need to be, because we need to take care of these kids. That's my opinion.
Well, I think the good thing is that I'm from Knoxville. I don't know where I don't know what's happening in this political arena. I don't watch the news in Smith County.
And I use that phrase.
Read the newspaper.
I'll use that
So-
phrase, and I'll tell you why. It's a small community.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want anybody saying, well, you know, well, Scotty wants to go to the Barry wants to go to whatever. It's not about that. What it's about with me is providing, you know, if you come in here and say, okay, these kids need 5,000 limited lead pencils, then I'm gonna be the first one to say we need to pay for that. You know what I mean? Or anything else at Forest School, or whatever, because if we're not gonna do the right thing, take care of our kids, regardless of what that is, then we all need to go to the house. That's the best thing to do.
Well, one of the things that I've seen over my career that saddens me is how politics do get in the way sometimes. And so you're not going to get that from me. I'm going to tell you what I see. What the data speaks for itself.
And I
All we're
appreciate
doing
that.
is facilitating, pulling it all together, and presenting. This is what it says. Is this what you want? Now, I'll give you some warnings. Sometimes, you know, we're going to be looking at it objectively, and we don't know where the turf wars are as far as this mascot and representing the history of that community and this. So we might say, let's combine schools, and you might say, don't even go there. So we're going to be looking at it objectively, just to see, okay, here are options.
We all be
we'll
looking
present
at our
those.
land like, one of the things I feel like a lot of government, and I'm not being critical, but the government, we don't utilize what we have. And can we all be able to pull the land footage and say, all right, you've got this many acres at New Milton, this many acres at Gornsville, this many at Carthage, and because I've been in a growth span at my little company, and you'll be amazed where you can level ground or go into
Yes.
a bank and get tons of square footage that you'd never have thought of, you know,
Absolutely.
and fill in with stuff.
Technology is a beautiful thing in this day and age. Well, sometimes it can be a beautiful thing, sometimes it cannot. But yeah, you could do a lot with just Google Maps.
So you think y'all will look at
And
that?
we can look at that stuff. Now, one of the things that, if you want us to do this, one of the things that I'm going to be looking for is some contact phone numbers of some key people in supervisors and stuff, like who is over your facilities, who does your curriculum, and I'm going to start having some conversations with them to kind of see what stuff do you have. You might have a room back in the back corner of this thing that has all the floor plans to every single building here, which would be tremendous help. Now, if we have to recreate that information, then that takes time and money and resources that we have to do that. But we're hoping that we're just trying to find all the stuff that you have and assemble that together and go ahead. I mean, because one thing we will need to have, we need a floor plan of every single building, preferably to scale so that we can start sizing stuff. Because when we start looking at core capacities of a building, one of the places we start is we look at the cafeteria first. How many kids can you sit in there for a lunch period? And start sizing and say, okay, this is kind of what this core looks like. Now let's start counting teaching stations and classrooms. So
Yeah.
we're going to be wanting to really tap into your all's leadership here and say, okay, what pieces of this puzzle do you have already? What pieces do you have to create or help pull together? So, but definitely we will be looking at all the resources. That is every square foot of building you have and every square yard or square yard of property you have. So we will look at all that pieces, and we will be able to, if you want, conceptually start saying, well, This side right over here, you could put 4 classrooms on this side of the building if you want to go that direction. And we could really pull together some really quick, and I brought an example from the last study I did, some really quick diagrams of this is an example. This was a new facility. This is, yep. Here's one right here where in this study we pulled together just a quick diagram of your site, and what you see in white right there is existing. What you see gray is in addition to that facility. So we can start looking at stuff like that, and then we can also start looking at, okay, do you have any vacant land? Do you have any property you're trying to target? And we can actually look and see if there is, what a school would look like on there. And what do you need? We'll basically take a look at your property, and this is an assessment that tells you, okay, this is the lay of the land, this is the middle school, which it's all circles, and there's slopes and there's detention, and we can look at that stuff. So we'll analyze all that stuff, but again, it's going to be dependent on how, the deeper we go, the more time, more fee, and all that kind of stuff is going to be associated with that. Or do you want us to just stay shallow and just give you, what you need to kind of get a decision, or you want to go deep and try to see what you might want to see where it goes? Because I can tell you this, thousands of dollars of planning can save you millions of dollars in construction.
Absolutely. Can I ask a question?
You may.
Not to interrupt your train of thought there, but
No.
will the data assessment that you provide us with, whatever direction that we may go, will that include also a projected timeline of, if you do this, it will take this amount of time to complete that, so that...
Absolutely.
Okay, I would
Yes.
think it would, but I just wanted to make
And
sure.
we've got, I call them my nerd spreadsheets. We've got actually spreadsheets that really finance directors love, and that we can estimate what the cost of buildings are per square foot. Now, renovations and additions are a lot trickier.
Sure.
Because you got to
Yeah.
get in there, you don't know what you're going to run into. But doing a brand new facility, we keep tabs of what, and the best way to do this, instead of trying to guesstimate what a cost per square foot is for the school, we look at bid tabs that come out. Bid tabs are the bid results of a project actually on the street that contractors give numbers to. So we monitor those. So right now, I know in the last 3 to 6 months, actually one was in Lebanon, I think. Another one was in Cleveland that I saw bid results, and it was an elementary school that was coming out around $230 to $250 a square foot. So we are keeping tabs on that stuff, and we do that throughout the year. So we're able to do that. But also what we can do, that spreadsheet, is we can actually project and say, okay, in fiscal year so-and-so, this is when construction's going to hit, and these are the dollars you're going to have at that point in time. And it's going to stretch 2-3 years, whatever. Then the next school is going to start here, and this is the fiscal dollars you need for that. So we'll be able to project that for you.
Yeah, I think our concern, or at least my concern, and it's been expressed before, is that we will arrive at the problem too late and not be able, we'll be in a situation where we've got to try to utilize portables or do whatever, and I don't think anybody sitting here wants to do that if we can avoid it,
Well, I can
ahead
tell
of
you right
time.
now, if you want just an abbreviated, roughly, if you were looking at to build just a typical elementary school or a typical school, you're looking at somewhere between 10 to 12 months, maybe around 10 months to design it.
Right.
And then a couple of months to bid it, get you to a year. And then after that, you really are looking at about 16 plus months to get it built.
And that's
The
not even
quickest one I
including
did-
approving the funding or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that doesn't even count. Oh, let's
Yeah.
go on hold until the
Right.
taxes are increased or whatever you got to do.
That's
Because I
a
think
sore spot right here.
the quickest one that I did was Allgood Elementary School in Putnam County, and we built that one in about 13, 14 months. And that was on a site, existing
Everything went
site
right.
of the middle school that was occupied, and parents were driving all around us the whole time. So we've got one right now, and back to the study we did in Athens, it led to they want to build a brand new pre-K-5 facility. They're taking 4 of their facilities, closing them, and putting all of the kids into this one facility that's 2 schools under one roof. And we're building it on a site right up about 30 feet up against another building. and then we're gonna build that and tear this old one down. So we will look at strategies like that and be able to kind of forecast what we believe there's gonna be as far as time and construction money. And we also help you all out. A lot of times you'll have somebody just gives you, oh, this is the construction dollars only. We go beyond that, and we actually try to help you figure out, this is non-construction costs. This is what you've got in fees. This is what you've got in plans reviews with the state fire marshal. This is what your geotech, your survey, your all of these other fees. Oh, by the way, you got a plan for furniture, you got a plan for technology, and we try to help you all build the budget so that you have a total project budget. One project budget is non-construction and construction costs, and we try to help you with a non, so that you have a good idea of what you need to be asking for funding for at the end of the day.
Well, the strategic plan, you talking about strategic plan, you can plan that out 15, we'll probably all be gone from the board, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
next board can at least look back and say, look, this is where we're at, this is where we're
I think to reinforce what Robin has always said, we need to be proactive instead of reactive. You said that many times. And I think that's what I hear all the time, is that, well, we've not presented us with a plan. You're not, we need a 10, I've said that all the time, we need a 5, a 10, 15-year plan. And like I said, most of us, I hope we're alive, but I don't plan on be sitting here.
Yeah.
But I think that's what our county deserves, and they're paying us to do, to have a plan. A plan is just a plan. It don't mean it can't change. But I think we at least need to have a vision of where we want to go.
And another thing that impacts this, and it's significant actually when you think about it, but the way kids are taught today, the education trends are drastically changing. They're a long way from the day you go in there and you have rows of seats. They're now more team oriented and more integrated teaching, and that affects your floor plan. So a lot of the schools that we have in our nation are actually built around the old model of rows and seats and somebody presenting at the beginning, at the head of the class. And our facilities don't support that anymore. I mean, we don't support the new trends of more collaborative learning and team learning and stuff. So those are some things that we can help look at too. I'm not sure where you all are at in that, but we can definitely look into how you all are teaching and look at those trends and see if there's any adjustments that you all need to make going forward. So.
How long will it take you probably to do, if you've done a quick study and then a deep dive study, about how long will it take you guys to do that?
I don't know. That depends on what you have. So I think where I would need to start is I need to start having conversations with various people here to where I can say, okay, what plans do you have? What floor plans? What data do you have? How far back do you go in enrollments and stuff? And can we start pulling that stuff together? You could easily probably be looking at, depending on how deep you go, 3 to 5 to 6 months maybe. And that's without me looking at seeing what else we got going in manpower and that kind of stuff. But the big thing we need to know is what do you have? What do we have to start with?
I think our data, that's pretty good, isn't
I
it?
think we had a company on another deal, kind of made a deal, I guess, with us to do it.
Yes.
They came in and done a lot of what may not be I feel like it is way along with what you need that are maintenance director we have in hand
Yes.
done last year.
Yeah.
Her buildings were walked by engineers. They were,
That's
deemed,
perfect. I mean,
yeah, they told us that, because as a matter of
Yes.
fact, they couldn't believe their facilities were in good shape. They were, that was a great surprise for us.
well, if you could just give us those reports and we can review those, and that way we can start looking at that and kind of synthesizing that
But I
information.
think, and I don't want to, what I would suggest, I think that the county commission mayor would like for us to, we think we know, because some of us done it a long time, or we know we've got some problems for sure, okay? Some core problems. I think the biggest thing before we get into a deep dive of this is we need to know, well, maybe we don't need anything. Maybe that you see something that we need to change and you can fix it. But on the other end of that, you show that, you're going to have to do something with it
Well, I think what we can do.
before we start adding additions and,
Yes, what we can possibly do is we could look at this in almost an a la carte kind of thing. We know what we need as a base amount of information to give you the base answer.
yes, you got a problem. I mean, that's what we need to know, or know you.
Yeah, we could probably structure our fee proposal, whatever, to, okay, here is the minimum that we need to do to get you the answer. If you want to go deeper in this way, in this avenue or this avenue, then here's an additional fee for here, and we can kind of give it to you
Well, I
that
think
way.
at that point, if we see there is an issue, that would be something we would need to obviously do.
yes,
But I think
yeah.
the biggest thing is, before we go further, is that, you know, are you guys saying we have a need and you're doing it, like you said, totally objective, or not? You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
a turf war, it's not something that, I don't think anybody sitting here wants to build a school, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, it is what it is if it comes down to that, and that's what we need, a professional opinion that's unbiased to tell
Yes.
us that.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say, to the comment about, this will get us 15 years, 20, keep in mind, there's no hourglass out there that's going to tell us exactly what's going to happen in 15 years. The study that we do is a living document. It's not in stone after it's done, because just like technology,
Well,
as
it's
soon as
based
you
on
buy-
trends, right?
It's based on
Right,
trends and
right.
things change.
Right.
You could have a massive industry come in here to Smith County, and that plan is not going to support that massive industry. So we have no knowledge of what's coming and what's not. So we also will want to, you know, we've had systems where they basically give us the demographics. They give us all that data, and we just kind of review it, synthesize it, and plug it into all the other stuff. If you've got that information,
I
that's
feel like
great.
we've got a lot of what
Okay.
you're on.
And if not, we could actually, I don't know if you have a planning department in Smith County or building commerce department or something, economic development or community, whatever, that we could talk to, have conversations, see what their trends are. But we want to look at those trends and make sure we nail down, well, you've got a lot of building permits being pulled up here in the northeast part of the county, you know, versus the south. And we want to just kind of see where are those growth patterns. And we can kind of tap into that.
And we have a whole lot of county that, for example, don't have sewer, and I think there may be some plans, and that's really going to expand certain areas if that hits.
Yeah.
But that's things that we need to know and hear from somebody besides me. I mean, it's big.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, what do we need to do to move on with this? Do we need to say?
I don't know that this is a service, it's not necessarily a vote.
Somebody would have to contract with them.
Do they need to get, I guess what they're asking, Jane, do they need to give me permission? Do they need to do it? How's the right way to do this?
Or
they
do we need
vote
to
on it?
actually do a vote?
Need to be put on the agenda?
There's an agreement for this gentleman to perform his services, and I'm sure that there are. You would have to vote on that agreement. Yes, sir.
I think that if I can interject, I think what we would see here is we need to have some conversations with some of the supervisors' facilities and see what you've got. And then that will help us figure out what do we need to give you as far as a proposed scope of work and a
Okay.
proposed fee. Then we would submit that to you all, and if you all are in agreement in that, then we can pull together the agreement and rock and roll.
Is that something that you can
They're
pull
two
together
different
like in
companies.
2 or 3 weeks as
They
far
work
as
together, though, they're
a
two
fee?
different.
Yes,
But they
I
are
think
two
we
different
could.
I mean, I was
entities.
just thinking if that
They
could
are
be
two
done
different
before our
entities.
next
They- they-
meeting,
they-
that's what I was
Yes.
He
thinking.
does the engineering.
We'd go ahead and vote on it the next
And
meeting.
they work on
Yes.
it.
We can definitely target that. And I just need to kind of know, in addition to Barry, who are those contacts of building plans and curriculum and numbers and those assessment reports that you've got and that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily need to have that information, I just need to know you've got it. And that when we get started, it's ready for us to take and run
You
with
could
it.
go ahead and contact Mr. Smith on that, and y'all start talking.
Yes.
And then what he's got, then within the next board meeting, or the next board meeting, you could probably present us a proposal.
Yes, well, we'll target the next meeting. If it's a month from now, we'll
Yeah.
target
That's a
that.
month. We'll put it on the agenda for next month, and if something was to happen, we can push it till the next one. But
Okay.
we'll go ahead and put it on the agenda for next month.
Yep.
It's at the 19th.
What's his company's name? I didn't.
Hang on a second.
It'll
McCarty,
be the
Holsap,
third
McCarty.
Tuesday. What is it,
It is the,
Oh, he's got a card. He's going. Yeah.
the 19th?
it is the 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And we just plan on doing it that way. Thank you, Aaron. We'll plan on doing that then, and Aaron, if you and Barry can kind of get together, and see, let you know what we have, and then
Yes,
we'll get it on the next agenda.
that will be not a problem.
All right. Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else?
Any other questions? It's good to see both of y'all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Does everybody want to take a little break? Do you need a little break before we start our regular meeting? Okay. We'll take a